And boom, I'm live. Hang on a sec. Sorry, I wasn't actually realizing there. I hope that you can hear me okay. I hope everything is working. Yeah, welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. A happy new year, everyone. First of all, I'm sorry I couldn't live stream last week. I must admit, I wish I could see a mic indicator live when I'm on this, just so I can see that the sound is working. But I think it is working. I hope that you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear in the comments that you can hear me. Happy 2024. Great to see everyone. Sorry, I was off last week. I was sick, actually. I had a adenovirus in my eye, and I was feeling and looking a bit miserable. So I ended up taking the week off and not rescheduling this week. I'm feeling a lot better now, as you can see. Since I was actually isolating pretty much for that whole week, I decided, yeah, it's a New Year's break. Why not grow out the beard and see what it looks like? So I've kind of grown out my beard a little bit just to take a look at it. I'm kind of curious to see what people think about that in the comments. But yeah, hope that you all can see this. Let me know. Can you see this? Can you hear this? And yeah. Anyway, great to see everyone. We have 12 people watching. 1 minute into the stream. Also, let me quickly move. I also just had to reboot my browser right before this, as usual. Technical features. But yeah, so we've got 2 weeks worth of news, including a bunch of stuff that happened over New Year's. So yeah. Oh wow, okay, I've got lots of people in here. So let's say hello to all the people that are in here. So as you can see, the topic about facial hair is this. It's not so much a news story, it's stuff that had happened in the past and so on. And since I've done it, kind of a poll. How does it look on me? It's a bit white around the edges, but still kind of dark in others. It's kind of an interesting place at the moment. But anyway, that's what that was about in the topics. Because Dan H, he actually has a good memory. He remembered that the was it the U.S. ambassador who was a Nikkei American, as I recall, Japanese heritage American. So that was probably something that was sensitive to begin with sending to South Korea. And the South Koreans said, "Oh, that reminds us of the Japanese vice consuls that they used to send to Korea. So please shave off your facial hair because of World War II colonial period sensitivities." So that was a new story that I covered here ages ago. So credit to Dan H for remembering that. But as I explained, it's more to do with me. Just curious and seeing what people think of the new look and whether I keep it or not for a while. But it's kind of fun to grow out actually, and it grew out actually better than I thought it would. So that's a thing. December Cloud's not able to make it, but glad that you'll be watching this anyway from the US. Shubhas, our man from Panama. I hope you've got some nice coffee there and that you're feeling well. Yes, indeed, good to have you as always. We've got Yoni, our man from Finland, Freezer, Finland, present. It's been really warm here in Japan. It's been like still relatively anyway. As winter goes, it's been pretty good. I do feel like we're entitled after the horrible summer that we've been through, but I guess it's a sign that everything's going to be hotter than usual here. But glad to hear in a way that it's freezing in Finland. But good to have you as always. Hey Lara, good to have you in here. Hello, indeed. Nice to have you in the chat. Uh, Shubha's having 4 cups of coffee. That could be a little bit too much. Hope that you're okay there. Watch the caffeine intake. Quinn Rankit, great to see you. Great that you can hear me. Thank you for confirming, everybody. That nice facial. Thank you for noticing the nice facial here. Anyway, I don't know if it looks a bit scruffy or not, but it grew up pretty well. Actually, I was actually surprised. I have not grown out. I actually had like a goatee in high school, not high school, at university. So I look like this, but I've never grown out the full thing before. But yeah, it looks kind of cool. Uh, I'm not really interested. I'm kind of actually happy with the hair situation. Actually, it makes me go faster downhill on bicycles. The J Vlog indeed, long time no see, and a happy new year indeed. Right back at you and yours. Great to see you. Bang and beer. Thank you, Simon, for the feedback. Good to appreciate the acknowledgement. Great to see you in there. Bang a beard indeed. We've got 270 AJ. Hey, how's it going, AJ? Good to see you. We've got Sadiq. Oh, whoops. I accidentally hit mute. Oh crap, how do I undo that? I accidentally hit mute what I did not mean to for Sadiq when I went to go to put his comment up. Okay, I'm gonna go try and fix that right now. Let's go live. I'm going into YouTube settings. Aaron, if you're there in the chat, can you unmute? I think I accidentally muted Sadiq. I was gonna say hello to Sadiq, our man in Florida. I will go back here and I will add as moderator report. No. Okay, so it was just for it's a bit early in Miami. I think it was just the one comment. Oh, I can see it actually. Boom. There you are back. Hello from Miami. It's a bit early indeed. Good to have you with us from Miami. Tokyo 503, happiness year, ominous stuff in Japan, which of course we're going to talk about. Certainly picked a funny time for going into isolation and not being able to stream. There was a ton of stuff happening, but there again, there is a bit more context at the moment, so that is a good thing. Um, yeah, Lara hanging out in Meiji Jingu today. We've got Black Tengu, a man from Greece. Good to have you in here. Kidney stones again. Oh my God, no, no, not the kidney stones. I had the kidney stones. They were horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, take care of that. I guess. Wow. Yeah, I've been so afraid of ever getting them again. It's probably caused me to improve my diet a little bit, although I think I've kind of eased back off it. But yeah, do take care of that. Drink lots of water. Drink lots of water, and yeah, much sympathy on that one. Speedy recovery indeed. Yikes indeed. Hope that you're well. Hope that you're doing better. But yeah. So look, we've got great to see 19 concurrent viewers, 10 likes. Do appreciate everybody taking the time to join me again. Sorry that I wasn't here last week. I will get Victor back probably next week or week after. We'll do a 2.5 Yajis again. Do say hello if you're in the chat. I do love just seeing everybody in the chat and saying hello. That is what I do it for. As you know, the videos are not monetized, which means I can mix music at the end. So two things, just generally, if you've got nothing else to say, if you just want to say hello and say, do I keep or lose the beard? And also, I'm gonna do another mashup mix. I've been practicing a lot with that DJay app and having a ton of fun with it. I think you know generally my musical taste, and you know if you make a recommendation on a style or a track that you'd like me to mix, and if I have it or if I think it's a good idea that inspires me, I will do the final 10 minutes of mixing that stuff up. So yeah, do take care of that and do recover. Oh God, that's so terrible. Yeah, no, that was not fun when I had that. So do take care, Black Tengu. And yeah, and with that, let's dive into the topics. I've had a relatively quiet New Year's here, but yeah, it's been good. I hope that you've all been good wherever you are. Of course, Japan, we actually have generally work goes off in Japan. We work until like December 29, and most companies are off until about January 3, and companies go back January 4th and 5th. A lot of people take those days off, for example, however, because actually tomorrow, the 8th, is Coming of Age Day in Japan. It's another holiday. So we get back, we work for 2 days, and then it's a vacation again. So what a lot of people do around that is they just take the 2 days off at the start of January so that they can extend their home trips and so on. So yeah, even though it still kind of feels end of year vacation mode, it's a little bit of a problem because when you work at a global company like I do, it means everyone's back at work and doing stuff already. And I feel like I'm a week behind whenever I get back to work, but I do enjoy the holiday that you get here. So yeah, that is a thing. And oh, we've got more people in the chat. We've got Natalie. You vote to keep the beard. Thank you, Natalie. I do appreciate the chat. Appreciate the vote of confidence in the beard. We'll see how it goes. Keep the beard. Maggie goes X. You'll do the same. It is kind of a New Year's thing, right? You get a break. I was going to comment about the beard. Hell, I might just say it now since we're talking beard stuff. The last time I grew out a beard, it's something I often do at New Year's because, you know, you get a week away and you get a chance to grow it out properly and not look too scruffy or show them all the in-between stuff. So when I was working for a big Japanese company, old-fashioned Japanese company, that didn't have an explicit rule against beards, I did this. I grew out a beard over New Year's, and I showed up at work like January 5th or whatever with a goatee at the time, which is what I did at university. When back in the old days, my goatee would actually grow out kind of copper red color. It was kind of cool. I had blonde hair and a copper goatee. And I grew it out. And I showed up at work, and no one said anything except the contractor lady who was sitting next to me. And she sort of growled at me. She said, "Just because you're a gaijin, you think you can break the rules and grow a beard?" And I'm like, "There's no rule against it. Why would there be a rule against it?" She was like deeply offended at my beard. It looks too masculine or something. She was literally quoting Japanese Middle Ages law during the Edo period in Japan. Among the rules that they made after the Warring States period finished in Japan, they introduced a bunch of ridiculous rules aimed at social control and preventing, wars happening again, which included rules about who could have swords and showing swords and stuff like that. And they did all sorts of things to sort of reduce the appearance of aggression from people. And apparently growing beards was something that Japanese samurai and so on would do to sort of appeal at how tough they were and one up each other. So to like take down the agro testosterone levels, it was actually forbidden for people to grow beards during the shogunate period, or at least for a certain period of time. So there was a bit of a legacy of that, where it was sort of, there were some people who care deeply about traditional Japanese culture. It was sort of frowned upon growing beards and seen as being something that sort of gangsters do or whatever. But geez, I mean, it's not like I tattooed my face or anything, right? And actually, I don't know if you can grow it, which it turns out I can. You know, it's not that bad a thing, right? So anyway, votes on the beard and votes on a track at the end, and hello, and say where you're coming in from. So Margate goes X, thanks for that, and Natalie, thanks for the vote of confidence. Yeah, Lad's not quite so impressed, although he's at that age where he's not impressed at anything. I think I could literally win a Nobel Prize and he would not be impressed at the moment. So I take that into account in terms of his vote. Yeah, the J vlog. I've done something similar, probably less than you actually, but I did found it gets a bit scratchy quickly. I found I actually now shampoo my face more than I probably do the top of my head. But washing thoroughly fixes the itchiness in my experience. Although if it really does get like that, I will probably shave it and have it look tidier. Also, with the scruffiness thing, there is a thing if it grows out a bit longer than this, I might consider getting like beard oil or something like that. Although actually, it's pretty tidy. And the good thing about having the clippers for doing the hair myself is I can also tidy up around the edges of the beard and make it look nice. So it looks a lot better than I was expecting it would. Actually, I'm kind of happy with this, but we'll see. Some people don't like it. Yeah, COVID starting up again in our hometown. Gee, sorry to hear about that, Shubis. That sucks. Although hopefully it's a milder version. But lemon juice, yes, the citric acid. I took all of those tips. So yeah, you got to like avoid all the things that I love, like beetroot and spinach and oysters and yes, and tomato and stuff like that, which I was doing for a time, but I've been kind of easing back and just drinking lots of water. But oh yes, that sucks indeed. Tadom, good to see you, Tadom, the Netflix theme sound. Indeed. Walter White, Alla Heisenberg. Good luck. Keep it. I could go. I was actually thinking about trimming the head more as well. I've actually got like a 1 millimeter thing, which makes me look even more Heisenbergy. I'm not sure I need to do that, but yeah, Beard needs to say, "Wow, all the pineapple." I am appreciating the votes of confidence on this. I might keep it for a while. It does actually look pretty good, right? Beards are cool, says Black Tango. Lots of votes of confidence here. When it gets longer, the itch goes away, says Quinn Rankit. Okay, we'll see about that. Yeah, the Sergeant Bilko, good to see you. Sergeant Bilko, from you especially, I'd like a musical recommendation because I'm going to be doing a mix definitely at the end of this. Our new show host. Yeah, you can look at that way. Tim the Asian Ink, awesome to see you. Happy New Year, dude. And yes, indeed, manly. I've always been manly. Come on, look at this. I'm wearing a Mai Tai shirt from Seattle. So there you go. Sure, that's enough. First I kicked him in the face and knocked him out with the beard. It's a good strategy. Another vote of confidence from Lara, loving the beard. Well, that's good to see. Because about to go out into the woods and meditate. Yeah, the lumberjack look. We'll see. It only sounds like me. Really? Is it that different? Come on. Those samurai outfits. What about this? So yeah, the samurai were allowed to wear swords, but there were rules like you weren't allowed to ever pull your sword out of its sheath, or I don't know, if you did, someone had to die or something like that. And there were all sorts of rules about beards and other sort of crazy things. So yeah, maybe it's a real-time AI. I would like to think that if we got an AI, I would look a lot better. I would ask for my money back on this particular AI, but yeah. A wizard or something to be able to rock the goatee. The full-on beard looks good. Though. Okay, well, I always grew the goatee before. I've got photos of it, but I had long hair and a goatee at university. It used to scare away the evangelicals, which is why I kept it. But it looked very different back then. I don't know. It was kind of cool. Anyway, wow. Okay, I'm appreciating the votes of confidence. Frugal BC, good to see you, Frugal BC. Also enjoying following your Twitter there. So yeah. Diogen Baptiste is voting yes for the beard. So there we go. Peace and love from Kochi indeed. Only 14 thumbs. Yes, indeed. DJay Sunnyside, have you tell him it's 16 now. So maybe you're already having an effect with that. But I do appreciate the thumbs up. I'm not monetizing this, especially, and I will not be able to monetize this because I'll put music on it. So what can we do? Yeah, I'm kind of separate, Jay. I do like my normal face, right? I do like the clean shaven look. So this is where I'm there. I don't know about energy and discipline per se, but also there's a lot more white showing with the beard, so just a slight vanity part of me likes it. I think I probably look a little bit younger without it, but at the same time, I agree. I'm surprised at how it looks on me. So there we go. In the Greek Navy, I don't know what that means, but yes, indeed. DJ's virtual stem separation as well. Virtual DJ stem separation as well. Okay, well, that's good to know. Although honestly, I'm learning and loving the Algoriddim DJ app that I'm using at the moment. So you tend to get locked in to the apps that you use. So that's what I'm using. I'm also trying to figure out actually how I can split the mic. So this is USB, and I use an audio 3.5 millimeter jack to input the sound, but StreamYard only lets me use one audio source at a time. I'm thinking of getting a mixer that I can use both the analog and USB audio mixing together so I can talk at the same time as I mix. I'm going to figure out a solution for that. I got sidetracked on that just before the stream. But yes, indeed. Happy New Year to everyone. Anyway, let's get started. Oh, beards and mustaches are forbidden in the Greek Navy. I did not. That's kind of surprising. I think I was thinking of the Navy. Maybe I'm thinking of the village people a little bit too much, but I always think of Navy people as sporting cool beards and mustaches. Grew up in a military family, so there were lots of cool mustaches growing up. Although that was also the 70s and the 80s. So there you go. Anyway, all of that said, all the best to everybody in 2024. Let's get into the topics. We are 20 minutes in. I do appreciate all the comments and hellos. So yeah, 17 likes, 25 viewers. Let's dive in. So what have we got? This definitely is the least fun-looking party that I've ever seen. It's all the different party leaders looking like they're not enjoying being together at the for the Ishikawa prefecture, the Noto Peninsula Wajima earthquake that just happened, which was terrible. A small bit of good news, of course. What happened with the earthquake? Now happened a week ago. It was crazy. 7.5 magnitude earthquake in Ishikawa prefecture, basically directly west, a little bit south of Tokyo, but because of the way that Japan's shaped, it's like directly west. The west coast of Japan, also this time of year, is normally buried under meters of snow, which is not, but they're having heavy snow today, which after the earthquake is pretty bad because it puts an increased risk of, for example, buildings collapsing because you can't even take the snow off the roof. So a tricky time of year and a tricky place to have a big earthquake. They had a very big earthquake. It severely damaged the town of Wajima. There's about 200 people missing and 100 confirmed dead from this quake. Once again, it was interesting that most of the buildings that were built after, I believe the cutoff is 1981 when they improved the construction standards. The buildings held up to a magnitude 7.5 quake. Shindo, I believe it got up to Shindo 7. Which is the maximum on the shaking scale. So it shows, once again, that the building standards here are good, but nonetheless, a lot of buildings did collapse because there's a lot of old buildings around there. Also, it triggered a tsunami, which hit the peninsula, particularly the town of Suzu, which is at the end of the peninsula and has been cut off by roads, so it's been hard to get rescue, and so on to that town. Looks like they suffered serious tsunami damage. So on top of earthquake followed by tsunami, a lot of houses were wiped out. There was from that town of Suzu, however, today a 90-year-old lady. It was like 5 days after the earthquake. Now, a 90-year-old lady was pulled out of the. I mean, geez, those are some good genes. She's 90 years old and she survived in a collapsed house for 5 days in the freezing cold and was pulled out alive today. So there is some good news coming out, but as usual. A really tough situation over there, and a reminder that, particularly in Japan, it's not really a matter of there being a risk of, like a possibility of earthquakes. It's a certainty. That earthquake that happened there will happen in Tokyo, 100%. In fact, Tokyo is kind of overdue for an earthquake, and it's a good reminder wherever you are that, especially if you're in Japan anyway, but even outside of Japan, you should have an emergency kit in the house. You should have generally a buffered stock of sort of food. Like, for example, at home here, we always keep like a few boxes of sort of bottled water in this form, which would last for a few weeks if suddenly, so we had a situation like with the nuclear accident where supermarket supplies, or with that earthquake where supermarket supplies went off. For example, where you have, we also stock a whole bunch of curry and stuff like that, stuff which keeps for a long time. Knowing how to walk home without the trains being available or without electricity working, just sort of having a plan for an earthquake, having a stock of emergency toilets. When my uncle, just before the 3/11 earthquake in Christchurch, they had a quake which actually led to my grandmother and uncle both losing their houses in Christchurch right before the big Japan earthquake. And yeah, when you're in the middle of it, the biggest problem that you hear often from people in earthquakes is emergency toilets when the water is cut off. So having a supply of sort of disposable, like plastic bag, sort of cardboard box toilets and stuff like that is something. So yeah, make sure you've got a plan and that you've got a little emergency kit box, a radio, flashlight, all that sort of stuff. This is a stark reminder of that. But the result of that, of course, a huge political response. People complaining that people were expecting Japan. Looks like it's always like the most ready country in the world to deal with earthquakes, but it's been hard to get to the peninsula. I assume that the self-defense forces and so on have been doing their best, but a lot of people in the peninsula complaining that they thought that the help would arrive sooner. So there's been complaints that the government response has been a bit slow. The prime minister, who's been wearing these sort of clothes, these emergency wear clothes, that whatever they've got, like, which is the sort of thing you wear if you're going out to the site. A lot of people saying, well, you're sitting around doing nothing in Tokyo, pretending to wear like the emergency response clothes and not doing anything. So a lot of people on Twitter being additionally critical of the prime minister on top of everything else, on top of, for example, people in his government being arrested for corruption today. Um, the corruption scandals, the slush fund scandals, all the other stuff. And now he's, so honestly, he could probably actually do everything perfectly and get a hard time, but he's been doing it badly. And at the same time as he's in Tokyo, I'm sure he'd be getting more criticism if he actually went to Ishikawa as well and distracted from the recovery efforts. So, it's a tough situation over there. And yeah, I do hope people over there, of course, there's a lot of, again, Japanese don't come together generally for charities, but they do for disasters like this. They come together quite well. There's a lot of volunteers going out there. But again, it's a part of Japan that's going to need a lot of support for a while. So yeah, really hope that things there start to recover soon, especially with how cold it is there. Eric Bailey, you'll allow it. Thank you for that. Hi from Sweden says, "Is this my life?" Hey, hello, good to see you. Yeah, easy to remember Swedish greetings actually because they're so close to English. Uh, Two more quakes, indeed. Heavy snow tonight, indeed. So yeah, more problems happening out there. The landslide footage, of course. This is the other thing that's very mountainous out there. It's why in Tokyo and most cities in Japan, if there's any hills, they completely bulldoze them flat because Japan knows between having typhoons, excessive snow, and earthquakes, like the risk of landslides, which in a way are like a form of dirt tsunami when they happen, right? They wipe everything out. Historically are known in Japan, so they don't mess around with hills. In Tokyo, it's very hard to find. There are no real proper hills in the city, at least that I'm sort of aware of. There are different elevations, but there's no like sudden hills or anything like that. Not until you get way up into the suburbs. So, and that's why because land slides are scary. I don't know. I'm never perfectly prepared for an earthquake, but yeah, we have an emergency kit here, so I always do my best. I do have a. Do I have a go bag at work? That's an interesting question. I don't think I do. We've got the standard gloves and helmet at work, and I know how to walk home, but I'm not sure I have a full on go bag at work. So that's a good point there, Quit Racket. Tokyo Bullseye, indeed, a document on emergency preparedness. That's right. There's actually most of the city governments, they have different things. I know some city wards actually send to every house an emergency box. They did this after the last quake, and they hand out like books with all sorts of information in multiple languages that you need for the event, for the inevitable event of a disaster like this. So, yeah, there's a lot of great information and preparedness here, although, of course, you never know what's going to happen in the event. So yeah, what else is going on? I saw a great video. Of course, there was this news of this kid who like broke Tetris this week playing competitive Tetris. I knew nothing about competitive Tetris until I watched this. There's a fantastic video. It's about 15 minutes long, but it's really worth watching. You can see it's the newest classic Tetris world record unbeatable, and it explains the game and how people figured out how to get further and further into the game to the point where they finally start hitting where the game run starts running out of random access memory and starts possibly crashing and how that happened. Um, yeah, it's a really cool video, so I'd encourage people to check that out. Um, yeah, just the other big incident that happened right after the earthquake. In fact, I think the next day after the earthquake was, of course, the Japan Airlines plane that landed on top of a Coast Guard plane that was out on the runway and killed like what was it, 5 of the 6 people or 4 of the 5 people on the Coast Guard plane, and caused the airliner that landed crashing on top of it to burst into flames. And of course, everybody saw the spectacular video of the plane crashing and everybody getting off the plane very quickly. Uh, and yeah, I had some comments on this which I shared today. That it was where was my tweet? It's getting a lot of attention, so I might as there's 2 parts to this. The first part is that the yeah, I'll put this up there. The BBC was very, all the international news coverage was really complimentary of how Japanese were so great at getting off the plane so quickly, and people calling it a miracle, and so on, and how basically almost within 90 seconds was the original account anyway. People managed to get off the plane. They went for the emergency exits. No one was carrying bags from the overheads or whatever. And the BBC, again, one thing a lot of foreign news outlets, which I really wish they would do, I wish they would get their information from Japanese news sources and Japanese people like about Japanese news, because there's a ton of information that they miss out. But instead of that, they just interview a local British plane expert who's looking at the same footage. And the expert, the coverage of the BBC, the BBC coverage was, this worked really well because the staff are so well trained in Japan, and as you can see, and also the passengers are so obedient. So that's why they're so respectful of instructions, and the crew and obedient. And clearly, this was a factor in how the plane was able to evacuate so quickly, because normally we'd expect people to be going for the overhead bag luggage and so on. And it's funny because Japanese would loves to cover international news coverage of themselves and then repeating it in Japanese. So there was a sort of cycle of news about how great Japanese are, that we're so good at evacuating planes and stuff like that, and we're so well organized and so on. It was kind of complimentary, but it really bugged me. It bothered me. Did not bugger me. It bothered me that it kept talking. A lot of the news coverage was talking about how this was clearly a sign that the Japanese are just more obedient of authority, and the the British coverage and even the experts talking about what happened were basically in an absence of complete information that they would have gotten if they just read Japanese and followed the news. We're putting in their own assumptions about Japan and Japanese people, kind of just generally based on racial stereotypes and cultural stereotypes, ignorant stereotypes, even positive ones. Still stereotypes that Japanese are somehow, sheep-like people or whatever, who just, do whatever they're told, or are submissive people or something like that. And they got off the plane. And there was the same kind of mentality where when Japan and Korea were getting better results, for example, with managing the pandemic in many ways, something which I know is controversial and some people still contest, but at least numerically and statistically, it appeared that Japan had a much more passive approach towards managing coronavirus, and yet was able to keep the numbers lower. And yet the idea of learning lessons from Japan was sort of dismissed out of hand, because people were saying, well, Japanese are more obedient to authority. So, that model would never work in a country like Australia or the UK, where, people are not like that. So it means that people write off Japan as a useful, one, there's this idea that Japanese are passive and submissive. And because of that, lessons can't be learned from Japan because Japanese people are different, even if it's in a positive way, which it sort of was for coronavirus in some ways, although it also meant that people didn't trust the data. But also here, in the case of this airplane, what in fact happened, as we've got up on the screen here, is that no, people were going for their luggage, and basically other passengers and staff of the airplane were yelling and screaming at them and berating them and saying, So what was happening, if anything was happening, it wasn't so much that people were being passive and obedient. It was that there was the group social pressure. It wasn't every man for himself type situation, which you might expect in some circumstances. It was people looking around, and when they saw some person trying to take their bag out, holding up the evacuation, everybody piled in and is like, you have to act responsibly for everybody else. So it was actually the sort of group, bullying, social, enforced. If there was a dynamic, it was the sort of group bullying and sort of social enforcement dynamic. It wasn't passive obedience to being told, to proceed to an exit. People act how people act everywhere around the world, and and my comment being, when you allow your coverage of Japan, when you allow a substitution of actual information for racial stereotypes, even positive ones, it just means you're just going to have crappy reporting. And the worst part about it that drives me crazy is Japanese love the positive coverage based on positive racial stereotypes that are incorrect. Because Japanese are not like that. They're not Japanese are not submissive. If it's the opposite, Japanese bully each other into this sort of thing. And the irony is, when I put this on, that it turned out that the idea that everyone was obediently got off the plane was wrong, and it was based on incorrect racial assumptions. And everyone was like, and it turns out that there were people trying to get their luggage, and people made them stop. Even on Twitter, I'm saying, yeah, but I've heard that those people were all foreigners. And I'm like, well, the point is, who knows who or what, whether it was Japan. I don't even care whether it was Japanese or foreigners going for the luggage. The point is that the BBC assumed that no one was going for the luggage because Japanese are so nice and obedient, which was wrong. They were making an incorrect assumption of fact. In terms of the fact as to what race they are, I mean, my whole point is it's stupid, like to even like consider that race would determine whether you're going to go for your overhead baggage or not. Because definitely Japan has assholes just like every other country. So that aspect of the coverage bothered me. In terms of the other aspect of the coverage that bothered me that I also talked about on Twitter a bit earlier was this. Originally, the only survivor of the Coast Guard plane that pulled onto the runway too early, it was supposed to hold off the runway at Haneda and let a plane land and then pulled onto the runway, but it just pulled onto the runway early. And the pilot, who was badly injured, the only survivor of the Coast Guard plane, the pilot told media immediately that it was a traffic controller's fault. They told me to go onto the runway. And so I went onto the runway and then the plane landed on me. And whether it was because they wanted to refute that sort of allegation of the only surviving person from the Coast Guard plane, the Ministry of Transport that basically, runs the airport and the air traffic controllers released like immediately, oh, here's all the audio of the interaction between the tower and the plane. The tower told the plane to hold at the holding point ahead of the runway, and the plane acknowledged the instruction word for word and appeared to follow it, and then just decided a minute later to go onto the runway by itself. So it looked like they were sort of doing it because they were like reacting quickly to not wanting to be blamed for the accident. They put it out. But then a few more days later, and it turns out today is what's coming out in the news is that the air traffic controllers have warning indicators when a plane goes onto a runway when it's not authorized. There's a warning indicator that goes off, that went off in this case, and the air traffic controllers didn't notice because they were doing other stuff. So they did miss the warning. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the mic arm because it is falling down. Okay, that probably made a lot of noise. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, the air traffic controllers, so it turns out they did also miss a warning light, even though it looks like the pilot. So everyone made mistakes. But again, don't like send updates in the middle of the investigation. Find out what happened, get the whole story, and tell the whole story. It looks like everybody was kind of more obsessed with trying to cover their ass and not be blamed for it, and was releasing information based on that. I mean, it's terrible for the pilot, of course, because they're the only survivor of this plane, a plane which was taking supplies to Ishikawa Prefecture for the earthquake. So a tragedy on top of a tragedy, if anything. And, yeah. And Haneda airports, of course, at a very, very busy time of year with people going home for New Year's, I understand that, hundreds of flights canceled because of having one of the runways out while this is going on. So yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, looking back at the comments, well, there are a lot of comments. Great to see. Pineapple, what do you guys do with money for an emergency? Do you stock cash at home? Not sure what to do. Japanese generally keep a lot of cash on them. It's not really it's not a good strategy to recommend for anything. But if you live in Japan, you do get used to keeping more cash. It's safe, and although lately you don't have to use cash as much as you had to. But yeah, never really thought about having an emergency cash stock. If you do, keep it secret. But yeah, you might be able to get away nowadays with not needing that as much as in the past. But good question. Aaron, glad that you made it, Aaron. Good to have you there in the chat, our moderator. As always, Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Great to see you. Kotoshi mo yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Who else we got in here? We've got at the peaceful Japanese storyline brings to mind the 60s and 70s protesting in Japan, where they were literally bombing buildings in Marunouchi and hijacking airlines and blowing up airliners in the Middle East and so on. So we've got all of that. This gel event and looking at gel safety record versus Anna made me change your ticket. I feel like this wasn't really Anna Gel's fault. Gel's had more accidents, of course, than ANA, but they have more planes flying. It doesn't feel like it was necessarily Gel's fault. But certainly, yeah, if you look at the safety record, you definitely and look, Anna's just nice. So you pay a bit of a premium for it, but it's a good airline. Tim the Asian individualism, yeah, but again, there's a lot of people make a lot of assumptions based on cultural trends, which aren't always true. So yes, indeed. Happy New Year! Not the best start for Japan this year, indeed. So yeah, we've had the earthquake, we've had the airplane crash, we've had 2 days in a row there were stabbings on like major train lines in Tokyo. Another thing I've got a comment in here about, which I'll hopefully get to. But yes, indeed, it's kind of like geez, what's up with 2024? But hopefully it's settling down a bit now. At least we have good weather, so that's a thing. Happy New Year to Softy Papa. Excellent to see you in the chat, and yeah, big year for you, of course, moving back to Japan. I loved watching your New Year's plunge at Huntington Beach. I do appreciate all the videos that you still put up from there. So yes, indeed, thank you for I would say maybe my highlight of 2023, certainly right up there, was you taking me around everywhere in Los Angeles. Really appreciated that. So big happy New Year to you and your wife, Softy Papa, and your family actually, since you'll all be out here in Japan soon. So yes, indeed. Um, Yo, Jean Baptiste pointing out, indeed, yes, it's amazing how few people. It's I guess it's a country that's used to and knows with 100% certainty that earthquakes will happen, and that's why there are good building standards and so on. I've seen other people comment as well how yeah, there are, this is the thing, Japan has lessons to teach. Japan is a country which has a lot of earthquakes, and as a result has great construction standards for earthquakes that any country can copy, but countries don't, and earthquakes happen. Even high earthquake countries don't have construction standards like Japan, and earthquakes happen and people die. And any country anytime could decide to adopt standards like Japan has to make buildings safer, for example. So yeah, it's amazing, but at the same time, it's not luck. Japan has a lot of horrible experience with earthquakes that makes it good at this. So yeah, that has gone back into a weird place. So I'll go back into the stream. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go for like 5 to 10 more minutes, and then I'm gonna start doing music. And I've only gotten through like 2 or 3 topics, although they've been big topics. So let's fly through this. Peter Durfee mentions that a group of Italian skiers called 110, which is the 911, it's the emergency, it's the police phone number in Japan, saying that they were lost skiing in the backcountry in Nagano Prefecture. So the police sent out a helicopter. And when they were found, they refused rescue and headed down the mountain on their own. So the police are furious and filed their formal complaint with the embassy. Again, just, if you're being a tourist here, please try not to be an asshole. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know whether maybe they thought they were going to be charged for the helicopter, which I doubt is the case in Japan, but it is a cost. So I don't know what complaining to the embassy is really going to do. Imagine if they complained to the Australian embassy every time Australia was obnoxious in Japan, or a New Zealander was obnoxious in Japan. If a New Zealander is obnoxious in Japan, I would ask that the Japanese authorities complain to the Australian embassy, please. What else do we have here? Oh, I'm going to. Apparently, Gaiji Mami, I don't know anything about the background of the story, but yeah, actually, it's covered by NHK. Foreigners, I don't know if they're foreign residents or tourists or what, but apparently NHK has been covering that foreigners have been turned away from evacuation shelters in Ishikawa Prefecture, with the shelters saying that they don't have enough food to go around. But why in the hell are they rejecting foreigners from the evacuation centers? So good question there. Prosecutors have arrested or have charged. I guess if it's prosecutors, they've interviewed. But there was something today where they actually arrested actual politicians today with the slush fund scandal. So what can you do? What else have we got here? Um, it's funny. I kind of said something bad here. I said that this is the first arrest in the slush fund scandal. This guy looks like there's a certain type of hairstyle and suntan that some politicians have, and it seems to correlate to politicians who get arrested. I'm thinking of the Akimoto, the renewable energy, the wind farm corruption guy from a year ago who got arrested. Kind of had the same look, and I don't know. It's not really good to say that you can say that someone will end up being arrested just based on their face, but this guy, yeah, looks like the type of Japanese politician who would get arrested just for looking like, just based on what he looks like. Not a good way to really do things, but yes, that is a thing. People complaining about the earthquake recovery coming too slow, but very good to see that the 90-year-old lady was found. Big news tomorrow. The Centaur Vulcan Centaur rocket, a ULA Vulcan, is launching tomorrow. New type of engine, which is going to signal that there's going to be, like, if this goes off as it should, then United Launch Alliance and a couple of other companies are going to be able to shoot rockets off like SpaceX can, like with that sort of frequency, which for like space travel and getting into space and everything is really, really significant. So the first launch with these new BE-4 rockets from Blue Origin, which are going to be used by 3 different companies. So really a big deal, and I'm very much looking forward to watching that launch, hopefully live tomorrow if the time works out. So that is a thing. Japan's putting out new money. It's going to 3 new banknotes. They're overhauling the 10,000 yen, 5,000 yen, and 1,000 yen. They're not circulating 2,000 yen notes anymore. I don't know if this will affect how they'll work in like vending machines and stuff like that. I also don't know if I necessarily like the design per se. They've sort of changed the font and made it a bit skinnier and so on. But I like new things, and it's kind of cool to get some new money, especially in a country where cash is so important. So that is a thing that is happening. We have arrests. We have yes, Kishida not being popular. Two knife attacks on the Tokyo subway, which I thought was not cool. What is cool, of course, is JAL refunding passengers and so on. Anyone who wants to even cancel their flight from a JAL flight after the accident. So yeah, good move from them, looking after people freaked out about flying after that accident at Haneda. As I thought about this two stabbings, while it's terrible, it is kind of remarkable when you think that Tokyo has 37 million people who use like the Yamanote line and they use these major lines. When you think of the percentage that Japan has, the same as any other country of people who have like mental health issues or emotional issues and so on, in a way, it's kind of remarkable that these kind of stabbing things don't happen more often. In a way, it's terrible that it does. And my reaction as a New Zealand, as a Tokyo resident, is I'm a little bit pissed off that if someone's going to go and have their episode and start stabbing people, that they're going to do it on the Yamanote line, which everybody depends on so much. It's just kind of, you know, I was almost more pissed off by the inconsiderate nature of the stabbing than the stabbing itself, which tells me I've probably lived in Japan for too long. But yeah, the incidents they happen when they happen, they're always weird. But it's a little bit like earthquakes. I mean, I suppose you just can't avoid it in a city of 37 million people, but it is a thing that happened, and it's annoying. And there's my comment. There was I feel like I've been in Japan too long when I realize I react to news like this about the stabbing on the Yamanote line being first by being pissed off that someone would be so inconsiderate as to do this on a crowded line like the Yamanote line, which may have been the point. I don't know, but that's my odd reaction to that. Other stuff that's happened, well, we're 3 days in, and it's already music time already, so I'm gonna fly through what else have we got here. But yeah, the earthquake thing, hope that works out. The Ekiden race, Hatoyama, who is not for me the worst prime minister I've seen in my time in Japan, but that just reflects how many terrible prime ministers there have been because he was a bad, terrible, useless prime minister. And just to continue the legacy, he tweeted out after the earthquake in Ishikawa. He tweeted false rumors that a nuclear power plant was having problems, which was untrue. So the power company had to tweet that the prime minister is making up false rumors about a nuclear accident that aren't true. So don't listen to him, please. Oh, and he's not the worst former prime minister that Japan has, which shows you the quality of politician that we've had here. Uh, so yeah, we've had all of that. Tax free. If you're into buying duty free in Japan, you may have heard it about a year or two ago that Apple got a massive fine for selling too many phones duty free to people who are buying them in bulk, clearly for commercial reuse. And the tax office went and fined Apple for that. Now, Apple's done the same, they're starting to do the same with department stores. They've done it with Tobu. They've said that probably a lot of Chinese tourists in particular buying a lot of stuff primarily to go and resell in China. And if they've been told by the tax office that if they have customers who are buying so much stuff in bulk, they have to not treat them as tourists. They have to treat them as commercial buyers and apply sales tax. So they've applied a sales tax bill as a penalty for Tobu for allowing duty-free sales, which I think is going to result in making it harder to get duty-free in Japan if more and more companies are afraid that they're going to be penalized by the tax office for this. So that's an interesting thing. When I was growing out my beard, Rochelle Kopp said that I look like the guy from the Navtime ads on the train, which may or may not be true either. I don't know. I think I got that guy beat personally, but that's just me. Wow, we're hitting music time. 4 days. Can I get any further along this? This is the landslides, another big problem when you got snow and earthquakes and stuff, and that's like a tsunami on land, basically. That is terrifying. Hopefully, there were no people in those houses when that happened, but it's another example of just stuff that happens in Japan. Again, the sort of efforts of companies spontaneously. Gaiji Mummy did a bingo card of "Never Have I Ever" during an earthquake for different things. I went through this, and actually, I've done most of the things on this during a quake. I'll leave it up to you to decide which ones I probably haven't done during a quake. But you're in Japan for 25 years. And you think of the number of earthquakes we have, it's pretty much impossible. If I haven't done any of these things during an earthquake, it's probably more that I haven't done them at all. I can't think there's a thing here that people ever do. I've probably had it happen during an earthquake. So yes, I'll leave the rest up to your imagination. Mars, outer space. Only 10% of Japanese are confident in their English ability, which I find kind of funny coming from New Zealand, where Japan is a bit like New Zealand, that even if you are confident, you're supposed to act like you're not confident, or else everyone will like gang up on you and tear you down. Japan is like that. So I don't think that 10% reflects the number of people who have good English ability. As having confidence is kind of a small percentage in anything, even if they're good. Uh, Admitting to being confident in something is kind of a fragile position in Japanese society, as it is in New Zealand society, or at least it was when I left. Apparently, the survey done of what sort of train manners bother people the most in Japan, and apparently people are most worried about the way that people sit. Don't sit with your legs apart. Don't sit with crossed legs or whatever, where you can bump into people. If you cough or sneeze on the train, wear a mask and cover your mouth. Don't splutter all over people, and don't block the doors when people are trying to get off the train, or try to get on the train before people get off the train. Those are the three things that bother people the most about trains. And I saw people respond to this by saying, "What about all the perverts and stuff?" From my perspective, as a foreigner, seeing other foreigners breaking certain rules, the big one that I used to break and that I've broken hilariously, I had a big backpack on when I first came to Tokyo, and my friend was like, "Dude, you got to wear the backpack on the front." I'm like, it was too heavy and it was too locked on my body, and I was like, "No, I'll just stand like this." I get on the train and my friend's like, "Hey, Hiko," and I go, "What is it?" And I knocked like three people over. Having a backpack on your back where you can't see yourself knocking into people and stuff like that is kind of obnoxious. You should wear backpacks on your front. That's my advice for foreigners. And wow, that's me growing out the beard a few days ago. It looks a lot better and a bit less scruffy now. I've tidied it up a bit and it looks a bit more grown out than that. Went for my first run, although I haven't been for another run. This is Gary Reedy talking about what I was talking about as well. That people should be taking there's a lot of lessons to take from the quake and so on. Japan does some things well, and you shouldn't just dismiss the transferability of what Japan does well because Japanese are somehow obedient or something like that. So all of the things. Anyway, those are all of the stories that I have. I am now going to switch into live mode. I'm going to mash up some tracks. I'm just going to randomly. I do not have anything already queued up for this. I am going to figure out a system where I'm going to hook up a mic so I can talk at the same time as I do this. But I've been sort of practicing on the app. I hope that this works. I've just realized why that's not going to work the way that I thought it was. So I need the splitter. I do need the splitter. Okay. So anyway, let's get this hooked up. So let's. Okay, give me a moment. Rid of that. Let's plug this in. And for the other one, let's plug this in. And I'm going to grab this so that I can hear what's in the channel that I'm preparing. Although I won't really need this, but I'll just put it in anyway. In fact, you know what? This will just work if I put this in the middle. So I am going to put this into camera mode. And that is a toaster photo down there. I think that's fine. Oh, that's looking at the roof. Don't want to do that. We want to look down. So, okay, let's get the DJay app going. Output enabled. Okay, so give me some ideas for music, and I'm going to quickly go through any final comments to show. The Alaska Airlines MAX door getting blown off was crazy. Aaron, yes, don't forget the like. We got music time indeed. So for music, okay, I'm going to go through my library and I'm going to go through a karaoke song. I'm going to do another mashup type thing, maybe a hip hop type song actually, because hip hop mixes well with drum and bass, and that's what I want to mix. But I've got to actually fix up my music library a little bit to get this to work. Not much here is working. Let's do Sugar Hill Yang, maybe. Couch Potato. Okay. You know what? Let's do, that's 120 BPM. Let's get into it. Yeah, let's do some Doja Cat, because I love Doja Cat. So let's cue that up on this side and set that. And for the other track, let's do some drum and bass. And I actually made a drum and bass mix the other day. So let's take Boom, 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 boom. Let's take this one. And let's just play that. And what have we got? Let's sync this and increase the speed on this a little bit. And okay, so I'm going to switch over so that you can hear the sound. Hey, good to see you, Robert Brooker, and everybody else. Seb, also glad that you can make it. The Wheels of Steel. New job is done. New job is. Oh, is it going to work on this? Love. I am going to quickly see if I can find a track. So let's go into just my overall song library. LUV. Come on, Lovesick. Ah, it's not enabled. That's a really good suggestion, but it's not enabled there. Eric Bailey, but I'll have that ready for next time. Anime Samurai, good to have you in the chat. Airbus is better, not the band. Okay, so let's just get into mixing this anyway. So done. So let's put this in the middle. Let me switch the audio source. So audio, name and headline, audio avatar, mic cam settings. Audio. Let's switch to the input. Mic, Realtek high definition. I know the problem. Okay, I think I can fix this. Sorry. I know what I did now. I know what I did. I've been using a splitter setup, which might be causing this not to work properly. So, okay, second try.
Yeah, you just wanna party, you just wanna lap dance, you just wanna pop up on this contact to the Batman, you just wanna ball out in the sauna with your best friends, you don't wanna talk no more about it in the past tense. Get me in my zone, I'm just talking comfort, shoddy. I ain't give you nothing, you got comfort, shoddy. I got plenty things you make a run for, shoddy. I love Ed Sheeran, he in love with my body. Get into it, yeah. Pop out with a truck, get into it, yeah. If you go to church, I said get into it, yeah. Baby, shit ain't gotta never get into it, yeah. And I said I just gotta go, get into it, yeah. Pop out with a truck, get into it, yeah. If you go to church, if you ain't gotta fucking get into it, yeah. Y'all need to take it into the gym like a pavana. Y'all need to take it into my gym like y'all need water. I mean, it's in the top of the yard. I mean, y'all bitches better y'all. I mean, y'all never they ever tryna knock up put my foot up and y'all gotta call your mama and your papa like I'm finna take y'all gotta turn that bitch into a sucker, but let rock. Get into it like a suit and fuck a stock up. Let's go, get into it, yo. Get into it, yeah. Go to church, I said get into it, yeah. And if she ain't got a fun, get into it, yeah. And I said I just gotta go, get into it, yeah. I with a truck, get into it, yeah. If you go to church, do it, yeah. If she ain't got a fun, get into it, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, still some things to figure out with the audio setup there, but still getting used to it. I do like that combination of tracks. That was Doja Cat, and this one was Fred V or something. I don't know. Sad Jungle. Fred V. Sad Jungle. So I'll also get this better set up so that you can see the stuff on here. I might even do a video about how to use this, but I'm enjoying the software anyway. I do need to figure out a bit of a preamp, and it's a bit frustrating with this. This is where OBS might be better because I can plug in multiple mics at once and not have everything is passing through too many things. That's the problem. I've got too many cables hooked together here. But anyway, having some fun with that. And hope that you are all having a great 2024. Thank you for joining me once again. I'll be back here same time next week. I've got nowhere else to go. I'll also be looking at getting maybe next week or the week after, doing the first 2.5 Voyages of the year with Victor. So hang around for that. Take care. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and all of the things. Stay healthy, stay safe. I will see you all soon. Thank you for the nice feedback. And yeah, I like the vibe of the music myself. Sorry for the fuss with it, but yeah, we'll figure it out. It's all part of the fun. Having technical features, there's always room to improve. So cheers indeed, Tim the Asian Ink, and everybody else. Have a good one. Holiday tomorrow. Stay up late. Well, I'm happy to stay up late if you want to stay up late. I mean, I know it's early for some of you in America. But I don't know. Maybe I should do like a separate live stream of just. But I want to get the sound sorted out. If I can get the sound sorted out, I might actually do like a full mix, like a 1-hour mix. Sometimes I've been making a few of those lately. I'll figure out a way to post them. But anyway, that is all the stuff. Have a good week, everybody. And yeah, see you later. So boom, peace once again. See you. Ending the stream. Pink hand waving says Sadiq. See you all later and ending stream. Ending stream.